I played Elden Ring for the first time in 2023, and yes, it lived up to the hype. Let's get into it. Now, I know what you're thinking, how are you just now getting to this game? And I'm just going to be open and honest, just gotta lay it all out on the table, you guys. I'm not a Souls guy. However, I always had my eye on Elden Ring. And then I finally bit the bullet late last year, and then I completed it this year, and I'm so glad I did. It was well worth the $30 that I spent on it on a sale. So yeah, like I said, I'm not a Souls guy, but I did find the combat in this much better than Dark Souls 3, much better than Demon's Souls, and it probably has to do with the jump button. I use the jump button so much, and I just loved having that verticality that wasn't in previous Souls games. I was a samurai, and I ended up using a sword that I got really early on. It was a katana of some sort, and I ended up just leveling it up like crazy, and I beat the game with it, a sword that I had almost the entire game, which I thought was kind of funny. But I love that you can pretty much upgrade anything. But also, fighting these monsters in these environments, like in the open world, the way the environment will get destroyed as you're fighting them makes it feel so cinematic. Along with that, I wasn't going to talk about it this soon, but the music combined with this open world and all these things breaking, these giant monsters attacking you, it's beautiful. It's literally beautiful. This game, I felt like, really captivated me with that combination of the environments, the music, and what's actually happening, the combat. The big, crazy-looking enemy designs that are just out of this world insane. So yeah, the combat, it was a lot of fun. And don't get me wrong, I did struggle with the game. I'm not a Souls person, so I died a lot. I did find some really useful ways to grind for runes. That really helped me out. But for the most part, I died a lot. But for some reason, it never felt as bad as other Souls games. And I think one of those reasons is that the checkpoint system is so much better. A lot of times, you won't even hit a checkpoint, but you'll die from like a larger enemy, and it'll just ask you if you want to respawn back at the nearest signpost. That's not technically a save spot. And that's really convenient, because you can just try over and over and not have to run all the way back to him. That was my problem with Bloodborne. That's one game that I wanted to love, but just running back to the enemy, having to get some more heals from somewhere. I'll be honest, I didn't give Bloodborne my full time that I should have, but I did with Dark Souls 3, I did with Demon's Souls, and I feel like Elden Ring has like some of the best checkpoints out of any Souls game. And some people will disagree. Obviously, some hardcore Souls fans, they love those very far away checkpoints where you have to run back through a bunch of enemies, or you have to fight them, or you just have to get back to the boss, and I'm just not into that. I don't like when I feel like a game is wasting my time, and thankfully, Elden Ring is the first FromSoftware game that I felt like didn't really waste my time in any way. I definitely had to shout that out. And in general, I feel like when you die in Elden Ring, it doesn't feel like as big of a deal if you die in like Demon's Souls or Dark Souls. Like, yes, you might lose some runes. You can just go right back to them though, pick them up. You don't really typically have to worry about trying to make it through a bunch of enemies to get your runes back. I beat Demon's Souls, and I just couldn't even believe I beat that game. And I feel like I didn't even understand it by the time I beat it. So jumping into this, I was basically starting all from scratch with this game. But after I realized, okay, the campfires will point you in the right direction, like on the map and whatnot. And shout out to the map. I love how many spots there are to fast travel to. As for the exploration is amazing. It's as good as everyone said it was. I was constantly enticed to just travel every corner of the map to try and find a new weapon, see what types of enemies are in the area, or just see all the different and diverse environments. Like this game's art direction. I'll get to it later. I'll get to that later. But instead of gushing about the exploration vaguely, I wanted to tell a specific story that happened to me in Elden Ring that I think will paint a picture as to how good the exploration is in this game. So early on, I go to one of them circle things in the map. I don't know what they're called. They're like portals. Then they take you to the other side, and there's like a boss on the other side. I get my ass kicked. I just get absolutely demolished. I try like probably 5 times, and I'm like, there's no way I'm beating this guy. So 15 hours later or so, I'm near the woods. I see a light emanating from the woods. This flashing light glowing. And I'm like, well, I gotta see what that is. Like, it's obviously in the scary, spooky woods. It was nighttime, so it was extra scary. But I go up to it. It's a ghost. You'll see like these spirits in the open world sometimes. This was like one of the first times I encountered one though, so I didn't really know what it was or what to do. And I end up following the ghost. The ghost walks through the woods. And it's these very spooky, creepy woods, and it just so happened to be nighttime, and there just so happened to be bears everywhere. Literally bears. Like, it wasn't some mythical creature. It was just freaking bears. These vicious bears in the woods. Anyway, so I'm following this thing. I have to crouch down because the bears are all asleep. They're either asleep or they're like looking in another direction. They're like scratching their backs on the tree or something. Or like maybe it was their nails that they were like scratching the tree. Anyway, I'm scared as hell. But I want to keep following this ghost, so I keep on following him into the woods further and further, getting scareder and scareder because, it's Elden Ring. Anything could happen. These things could be way OP compared to me. And keep in mind, it was the first time I followed a ghost. So he ends up taking me to this tomb out in the middle of the woods. And of course, it's being blocked by a giant bear. Like the biggest one. All the other ones were big. This one was massive. So I get to the bear, and I'm like, okay, what do I want to do? I can't fight this thing, but maybe I can sneak around it. So, of course, I failed. I did not sneak around it, but I did get down into this tomb that he was blocking, so I got the item out of there, which was pretty awesome. It was an item that made, like, my last attack of a string of hits, like, super powerful. Or not super powerful, but more powerful. But then I was trapped. I was trapped in this tomb with a bear clawing, trying to get in, but he's too big. Like, the physical bear cannot fit into this hole. So I'm thinking, what do I do? I could probably run out of here. I could probably leave, just dash out, like maybe get hit a few times, or maybe I can stay and fight, and maybe I can win this. So I did it. I stayed and I fought this thing, summoned my wolves, we went out there, we kicked his ass, but we almost died. At least all my wolves almost died. There was one left, and I was almost dead. I had 1 health left, and I killed this bear. And did it give me anything valuable? I don't know. But that's not the point of the story. In that same area, I kept hearing like a wolf noise. I'm like, what does that sound? Like, I feel like I hear like a wolf howling, but all my wolves are gone. So I end up fast traveling back to the nearest store. I get to the store, and the guy at the store is like, so you heard that howling, huh? And I'm like, oh snap. This game is smart. This game knows I'm doing things. This is different. This is a different, unique kind of experience. This clerk knew that I just heard a wolf howling, and that I was confused about it, and he brought it up to me. How different is that? How unique is that for an open world? I loved it. I was like, wow, okay, cool. He ends up telling me that it's a person, like it's a dude who's like this wolf soldier warrior guy, and he ended up giving me an emote to call him out. So I went back into the woods, creeped my way back through all them bears, didn't fight any of them, took my time, and I used it. I used that emote. I think it was a snap, and then he showed up. And then I talked to him. He's like, I don't like this dude. I need help killing him. Can you help me? And I'm like, of course. I don't know where this is going, but of course. But then I find out that the dude that he hates is the dude that was killing me at the beginning of the story. The dude I already had beef with that I couldn't defeat, he wanted him dead too. So we went there together and we destroyed him. We absolutely demolished this fool. And it was just so satisfying. So satisfying in the way this story worked, the way everything played out, from following the ghost into the woods, to hearing the howling, to using the snap and calling him out, and then going there and kicking this guy's ass. It was extremely satisfying. And I know that's a long story, but I had to explain it to really paint a picture as to why the exploration and this open world in Elden Ring is fantastic. And the last thing I'll talk about that really stood out to me is the world. Like, I know I talked about the open world, talked about the map and all that, but the visuals of this world, the tone, the uniqueness, it is booming with creativity and things that you would not expect to see, from the way enemies look to these crazy environments, like all these wild colors combined together that somehow don't look terrible. Like, the way they melded together a bunch of different color schemes in the environments was just beautifully done. I understand now why the game won Best Art Direction, I think, or it was at least nominated at Jeff Keighley's Game Awards. And I remember not really understanding that, because when you look at Elden Ring, you're like, this game doesn't really look that great graphically. And it's definitely not the prettiest game ever when you're talking about like how realistic it looks. But like I said, the environments are so diverse and so different and unique, and just the way you see like giant trees glowing, and there's like snow areas, there's fire areas, there's, your typical stuff, but then there's some weird stuff, like stuff you wouldn't expect to see in this game. So yeah, shout out to the world, the lore, reading all of it, not all of it, but reading some of it. Honestly, I didn't understand much of it, if I'm being completely honest, but it was definitely intriguing and unique. And I just got to give them their flowers when it comes to this world, because it truly feels different. I actually couldn't believe that I recently read that there's no water in Elden Ring, like no rivers, no lakes, no oceans. And that's weird to think about. There is like a frozen lake, but there's no actual water. And I can't believe I never noticed that while playing the whole game. A lot of people didn't. That's like a brand new article that's been floating around, or a new story. Shout out to the world. Shout out to the combat. It's a lot of fun. And I love the verticality, like climbing up on a rock and jumping off, slashing down on an enemy. really cool stuff. I definitely cheesed a handful of bosses. I'm glad that there was not necessarily a cheese for every single boss. Like, there was some where I couldn't. Like, I just had to straight up fight them. But it was always nice going to the community on YouTube, on Reddit, reading everyone, like, trying to help each other. So that's really cool. So shout out to the Souls fan base. Everyone seems nice. I know they probably get a lot of shit, but when I was looking up stuff, like, people were looking for exactly what I was looking for. And it really helped me with defeating these bosses, because this is definitely one of the hardest games I've ever beat. But in the end, I did beat it. I completed Elden Ring, and I feel very satisfied by it. Be sure to subscribe here to Structoid, and thanks a lot for hanging out. Listen to me rant about Elden Ring. I finally played it. I finally beat it, and I loved it. It's as good as everyone said it was. Even if it's not my style of game, I still found so much enjoyment in this game. So yeah. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up. If you didn't, hit that thumbs down. And if you want to know more of my thoughts, be sure to check out my Nintendo podcast, Spot Dodge. It's available here on YouTube. We stream it live every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Or afterwards, it's on all podcast platforms. We talk about more than Nintendo. I talked about Elden Ring on there, so definitely go check that out. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.